Hello and welcome back to the Forgive Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Brenda Reese, and today I have something really extraordinary for you. I have a guest today who faced a decade filled with false accusations, betrayal, and a challenging legal battle that left deep emotional scars. However, by embracing curiosity, empathy, and self-awareness, she was able to slowly rewrite her story, not as a victim, but as someone who chose resilience and growth. This beautiful person is Louisa Hext, and she is actually a life coach. She's got over 30 years experience and a reputation for her empathetic, judgment-free approach. Louisa, she helps her clients rewrite the stories to reclaim their joy. Welcome to the podcast, Louisa.
Hi, Brenda. It's so lovely to see you and to be back again.
Yes, so good. And today, we're going to dive deeper. We're going to share some things today that I think is really relevant, something that you went through, a deep betrayal, like we mentioned. And it's an important, I think, platform to be able to share the story because so many people, I think, can relate to what you've gone through, but not just what you've gone through, how you have moved through it and where you're at today and how you help people with the same kind of resentments and judgments, family dynamics. I mean, you've got a vast background. And so I'd like for you to share a little bit about that background and then let's dive into the story of where you've come from and where you're at today. How's that?
This sounds good. So we were talking before we came onto the show about my love and passion, working with individuals as a coach,
Mm,
as a guide, and helping people write their own story. And I also work in the family court system,
yeah.
which is quite different in terms of process because the family court system, which relates to people who are going through a divorce or an uncoupling with or without kids,
Yeah.
can often become a fight between two individuals who aren't able to have a conversation. And then the court inserts themselves because individuals have chosen to ask the court to help them find the answers by serving the other person. So the difference being is that people are in a situation where they're following a judicial process, which ironically I was caught in, and we'll talk about that
Yes.
a little bit later. The curiosity when I think about my coaching practice is that all of my clients thus far, it doesn't mean that they will always be those individuals, have struggled as it relates to family and family dynamics. And yet they've chosen to come to me. That's the most important thing. They've chosen to write their story and to take a path that is a direction that they have chosen. Right. So they're ready to insert themselves, to engage, to enroll on a life journey. And it might be a similar process. It might be about a divorce. It might be about a challenging relationship with a family member.
Yes.
And yet they're not asking for someone else to do it for them. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I've noticed in the work, so that's two hats that I wear and similar content, that I so much enjoy when people come to me because they want to, not because they're forced to, or because the court has appointed me to be in that role. And so we're here today really with my life coach hat on,
Yes.
rather than here I am talking about what many of you may know as alternative dispute resolution, or conflict resolution or mediation or parenting consulting. We're here today to talk about my story and the work I do as a coach.
Absolutely. And I know just quickly that that has really helped you, right? I mean, all of your experience, I think it blends really well, like
Yeah.
we were talking about, because it is about relationship. And you and I both love how us humans work. We're fascinated and curious about it. And we also have gone through some pretty deep things.
Mm-hmm.
And, like we talked about with you, there's been a decade filled with false accusations and betrayal and a
Mm-hmm.
challenging legal battle.
Yeah.
Now, other people have faced these things. And some of them suffer in silence. Some of them don't seek out a coach or support as they go through this. But you had tools, you had support, yet you still had to experience these emotions of going through this. And what I'd like to do is, if you're ready,
Mm-hmm.
is to share with us this decade filled with false accusations and betrayal.
In the space of a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So, the irony of it all is that the conflict that emerged was to do with family and family dynamics.
Yes.
And that had nothing to do with why I ended up in the situation. My work didn't have anything to do with it. In fact, I built my business as a person who had walked the walk, not just talked the talk. So the story is, and gosh, it goes back to 2010. Even before that, I had a very special friendship with an elder. His first name was Gordy. He was not a blood relative. It's what happens often to me because I love people so much. I'll be in a coffee shop and the person next to me is interesting and I start a conversation and that's what happened. And this lovely person shared a little bit about his life with me. At the time, I was probably in my mid 40s and he was coming up for his 90th birthday. So there was a big age difference. He, in essence, could have been my dad.
Right.
And there was a friendship, pseudo dad relationship for a number of years in which he enjoyed and I enjoyed all kinds of things. He was around my friends and family, came to a lot of events. We went to the theater, we went out to dinner. He had this love of butterfly shrimp, which you really can't find easily anywhere. And wherever we went out to eat, do you have butterfly shrimp? It was this funny. But that came into my mind just now. And he lived life with purpose. He didn't have dementia. He was one of these, what I consider to be a super ager. And in the New York Times just 2 days ago, there was a phenomenal article about super agers and what they have that might be different than those who have developed some dementia. And the key is being social and engaging with people. There's
Yeah.
like all this research.
Yes.
But long story short, he asked for some help, and it was to help him find an apartment because his living situation wasn't a good living situation. And another family member. And I helped him find the apartment and I co signed his lease.
Okay.
And I did not become his payee, but here comes the kicker. I helped him with his financials and I took him to his appointments. I did his grocery shopping. I helped furnish his apartment. It was just like anything that one would do for a family member. Yet I wasn't a blood relative. And this is when other people go, what is she doing?
And you weren't getting paid for this?
Well, I was getting paid $300 a month,
That's what you guys had agreed upon? Okay.
and it was for gas
Yeah.
and kind of, I had to take time off of my work schedule, and
Yeah.
I had moved and we were like 50 miles away. And so
Okay.
it was a lot. I mean,
Well,
$300.
that's a big investment of time and energy for $300.
Well, the nuts is that it was kind of pocket money. It wasn't like a formal contract. It wasn't a job.
Well, I'm sure he felt better, like an exchange, right? You're giving your time and energy and care, and he wanted to give something to you in return.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was really odd was so a number of years had passed, and around June of 2012,
Yeah.
I said, you need a little more help. Let me help you contact the county and you can get some in-home support,
Yeah.
which I did. And I sat in on the interview, and the social worker couldn't understand our friendship. And she did her due diligence, which meant adult protection.
Okay.
And there was an investigation, and we don't have to go into great detail. Gordy was alive and well. I was alive and well, and he said, "What are you talking about?" And he became ill shortly after that.
Oh.
So in August of that year, he developed a twisted stomach, which is very rare.
Oh.
And that led to a surgery. And he never quite recovered. He was in hospital for about 4 months. Different
Mm.
kind of got better, then he didn't get better. And he ultimately passed away in December, the late December of 2012. And then in March of 2013, I was served with court documents saying that I had taken money from him.
Was that the accusation of the family?
No,
Oh,
the family were not really involved.
that's what I was going to say. It didn't sound like the family was involved at all.
There wasn't really any money involved. This
Okay.
guy didn't really have a lot of money. He lived under $2,000 a month, paid all of his expenses. Um, it was the court doing, or state statutes saying, we need to get these people that take advantage of elders, but they had the wrong person.
That I was going to say, yeah,
Yeah.
because, caregivers get paid all the time.
The interesting thing, though, there are two areas where, at least in Western society,
Yeah.
and I can't speak to other societies where human beings have an extremely high standard, and with that comes a judgment. And the
Mm.
judgment is, how dare you take advantage of this old person? And the other is, how dare you take advantage of this young person?
Well, yeah, but then our society also ignores the older person or the elders, right?
Yep.
Don't take advantage of them, but then again, we're going to ignore you. Okay, that's my soapbox. But anyway,
I've
back to the
always,
story.
yeah, I've always had a passion for my elders. I've loved
Yeah.
my elders, even as a 16-year-old, when I didn't have to elect to do kind of a community service. In high school, I did. And I would travel and visit this lovely lady in London who had multiple degrees, as did Gordy, by the way. I think I was drawn to his intelligence, very
Mhm.
intelligent man. And I learned so much from her. She got like her anthropology degree at age 80. And I would visit with her, and that the work was just to chat.
Yeah.
And I wasn't paid.
Mhm.
And I would take the tube and visit her. And I've always kind of lived that story. In my graduate work, I interviewed Jewish women Holocaust survivors.
Yes.
And that's my family story. And what my question for them was, and it always has been, is how did you live with purpose? How did you survive? And these were always my elders. So it's never surprising. Just yesterday, I met this guy in another coffee shop who is 100 years old and drove up on a trike. You know, one
Oh,
of those electric trikes. It wasn't
yeah.
an assisted one. It was one that he doesn't even need to really pedal.
Yeah.
And then I heard him sing in a barbershop choir last night with all these amazing guys. So I'm just trying to introduce a little bit of my interest in people. So I never thought for 1 minute that
For
I
sure.
was kind of walking the line, that people would think that I was a bad person.
So what happened? So you were served with papers. That must have been, I mean, you're grieving from the loss of a good friend that you've been
Yeah.
helping. You're grieving. I mean, this is brand new into the, he just died in December. And now you're served with these papers.
Oh my
That,
God. Well, also, my dad had died in April of the same year. So that
ouch.
was two
I
whammies.
am so sorry for your loss. Oh, hun.
And what are we? We're 2025. So, I've healed. Um, People sometimes ask, is it because you've forgotten?
Oh, no.
And is forgiveness because you're able to forgive because you forgot? But
No.
so what happened? Well, first of all, I don't know if I'm sure people can resonate with this when you have this massive shock.
Death.
I thought it would go away. I knew something was coming. They waited till he died
Yes.
because he was saying she's fine.
Right.
She cares about me. I care about her. She didn't
Yeah.
take anything. And the amount of money that they said I took from his bank account was about $12,000, which was essentially all of his bank statements for a number of months, some of which I had used some of that money to purchase groceries for him, or maybe there was, I can't remember, and that's less
Right.
important. But they had come up with this number.
Okay.
It was just very random. And I, the world stopped. Like it was almost like a passing out moment.
Absolutely.
Like, and what was I going to do? And how was I going to do it? And was I going to hire an attorney? And how was I going to afford the attorney? And I mean, I don't know how deep you want to get, but it was a relatively long process.
Yeah.
And there's some comical stuff in there, which I think back and I go, oh my God, I can't believe it. Things that happened in that process. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I found a really, really good attorney.
Good.
And he had news that I didn't really want to hear. So, a financial exploitation of anything is considered a white collar crime. And it's very hard to prove anything because there's no DNA. It's not like you're being charged with stabbing someone,
Right.
killing someone. I would have been very easily able, say, accused of stabbing. There would be no DNA present, not
Right.
mine at least.
No.
So the evidence would have been there. In this case, and definitely back then, there was this push and a lot of funding towards court systems and elected officials to get people who indeed were taking advantage of individuals. And so I got caught up in that spiral. And my attorney said, this is a kind of a 50-50. If you go to court and this that you have a hearing followed by a trial,
Right.
it's still possible in front of a jury that you'll lose. And that just freaked me out.
Oh, I bet.
Totally freaked me out. And part of it was this vision of someone like you who looks very pleasant and nice. I know nothing about her
Right.
or him. And they're hearing my story and they know nothing about me.
Right.
They don't know the stories that I've shared. Perhaps we'll revisit that. And even then, my star witness is not present
Right.
because all of my friends and family that knew of our relationship, they didn't know the financial situation.
Oh,
They knew my relationship with him. They knew he was present. There were photographs and videos and just
right.
he loved them. They loved him. He was part of family and community.
Right.
But he didn't talk about bank accounts, right?
Oh,
So
no,
they wouldn't
nobody would. Yeah. So what did the attorney suggest?
plea bargain.
Mm.
So I was charged with two felonies.
Ugh.
The one of them was the most ridiculous of ridiculous. It was that I hadn't cared for his well-being. So they knew that there was nothing that they could prove there. There was a cosign on his lease. He paid his rent on time. He had a fridge full of food and he had a freezer full of food and he had cupboards
Yeah.
full of food and he had furnished
Yeah.
everything. And so they agreed with a plea bargain. You deal, if you watched it on TV,
Right.
it is what it is. You make a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so they dropped that one. They
Okay.
dropped one of the charges
Okay.
and then they maintained the other.
Okay.
And the deal was that I would accept that for not going to prison. I mean, basically,
Right.
I pay all that money back. There was house arrest. I mean, this is just the most funny thing because
So can I interrupt for a
yeah,
second?
you may.
Pay the money back to who? He's gone.
It ended up being paid to the state of Minnesota to pay medical assistance for the cost of his care
Okay.
while he was sick. It was very odd.
Very odd. I was going to say very odd. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I see the reaching here. Yeah.
And, even as I sit here now, I go, oh my God, what happens if someone listens to this now and they're one of those folks, right? And
Right.
so I still have a lot of angst about it. Yet the most important person is me.
Yes.
Had I had the courage, which I did not have, and had I had the strength that, oh, well, I don't really care if I go to a woman's prison,
Right.
just like Piper in Orange is the New Black,
Yeah.
true story,
Yeah.
Piper Kerman. Maybe it would have been a sociology experiment. I just didn't have what it took at that time to feel like I could take that risk.
Well, no, you're grieving, you're in shock. It's like this can't be happening to me. I mean, yes, I understand all of that. What a major growth experience.
Yeah,
Your unfortunate pain and betrayal, and accusations.
I, I got it. I got why the social worker felt things were strange and she had to do a job. I got it. At first I didn't. And I actually, without her present, forgave her part in this.
How
Not
many years in before that happened?
a good 3 or so.
Okay, that's
Uh,
that's fairly quickly though. That's fairly quickly for this long experience.
well, in another life, I was something similar.
Yeah.
I had a job working, funnily enough, in the field of disability.
Yeah.
And I have this. canny ability to empathize with another person's position and recognize that due diligence had to be done.
Okay.
There were some mistakes made in the process that made it with professionals that made it more difficult for me. And because I didn't know anything, like an initial attorney who had me talk to law enforcement,
Mm,
a no. You
yeah.
never talk to law enforcement. Like the suggestion was if I told my story, then they would get it.
Oh,
It dug it deeper, right?
of course.
And that was also, so part of my growth and what I was expected to do was I had this very kind of administrative expectation. It was an expectation, a requirement to check in with a probation officer. It was entirely administrative. It wasn't therapeutic. There were
Okay.
never any requirements for me not doing certain work. I was never prevented from hanging out with elders or working in the field.
Oh, okay, good.
I would never have got a job in it because of background checks, but there was
Right.
nothing stated. So I had completed this 3-year thing,
Okay.
paid the money back,
Okay.
and that then the felony was removed, and I lived with a misdemeanor.
Oh, okay.
However, the record was open. It was a public record.
Right.
And you know what people do with public records? They dig deep.
Mm.
So they never would pay attention to the fact that it was that I had a misdemeanor. They wanted to know,
What was underneath it? Yeah.
which is the iceberg, right?
Hmm.
So whether I wanted to or not, I really had to get to know myself. And I had been really resistant to that because I was feeling pretty shitty for a really long time.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't, I never lost friendships. I didn't tell a lot of people because of the shame. This is the first time I'm digging as deep as I am on a public forum. I
Yeah.
did a podcast recently, which touched the surface.
Yeah.
But this is like, I'm like, oh my God, should I be sharing this? What if, or if a listener would think, well, yeah, she's just the reality is I'm the,
And you get to release the judgment of others,
oh yeah. So it's been
right?
really
I
tough.
mean, I know. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. Yeah. But so the work that you've done after your 3 years,
Yeah.
you went through some major like healing processes
Therapy,
and they're good.
trauma.
Okay.
Um,
What did you find? Because you mentioned embracing curiosity and empathy and self awareness, right? And that you were able to rewrite the story. So there's also something that you took a really big step on yourself about that misdemeanor, about the whole thing that recently happened last year. What,
oh,
right?
you're
So,
talking about this. Okay. So
yes,
aside, so I'm describing this process and I want to put this into context in the context of forgiveness, because this is a forgiveness podcast.
yes,
And I also work very deeply with my clients
yes,
around forgiveness,
yes, you do.
which I talk about it as reverse engineering. If you unpack forgiveness, it's a release of this resentment and judgment and betrayal that we believe has been placed upon us. And that took and still takes, I'm not fixed by, I'm not a robot. that you can just push a button and I'm perfect. So life's daily challenges get in the way. However, it was a process of self-actualization,
Okay.
which I made a choice. This is really important. I embarked on a process without an end destination, not knowing where I was going to end up. From the beginning to the end, that was not possible probably in the first 3 years.
Mm-mm.
I was just in this abyss of self-pity. How am I going to pay my bills? What am I going to do? How am I going to get a job? Interestingly enough, I had just embarked on self-employment, which was my
Oh,
saving grace
okay.
because I didn't need a background check to hire myself. I mean, basically, I was a survivor and doing the best I could do. And I made a choice to move past the hurt feelings. But I really didn't know how I was going to do it. So shame, anger, resentment. What I learned to do was love myself.
Mm.
And it was a little girl that I loved. I used to poo-poo that.
Yes.
Oh, this little girl inside. How I did it, and I have the picture right on my desk. I have my favorite picture of myself when I was about 6, pouring wine for my father out of the carafe in the back garden. And I've always had a love of wine because he taught me. And then I have a picture of my dad next to that picture. And I see that multiple times a day. So there's this love, this self-love and this self-compassion, which I also struggled with. I could have all of this love for someone else or compassion for someone else, but I didn't have it for me. And then I learned that in order to move forward, as John Kabat-Zinn says, wherever you go, there you are.
Absolutely.
And he has a book by that name.
Yeah.
I could have spiritual bypass wherever I wanted. I could have a
Yeah.
couple more glasses of wine. I could eat my favorite foods. I could shut out what was pain. I could do all those things, but I wasn't doing the work then. It was just waiting for me.
Yes.
Because I believe you can't go around something. You have to face it and go through it.
Yes.
So kind of, you can't go around the fence. You have to climb over the fence or the bump. And so that's the process. It was a choice that I made for myself. And it was very internal. It was less of worrying about what other people think, though I did admit a couple times on this podcast already, I'm wondering what people are going to think when
Mm-hmm.
they hear my story.
And I think that's okay.
It takes tons of discipline and it requires this relinquishment of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're asking about a specific something. So I'm going to explore that or share that a little bit. So you don't just get to bury your past when you have been charged and found guilty or plea bargained of crimes. At least in Western society or the US, the UK, you are continuously reminded of it because that someone wrote your background. Someone wrote your story for you, right? And so my journey was to get to write my own story in my own personal work and also externally. And the external was applying for an expungement. This is what you're referencing. And for those who don't know what an expungement is, it basically means that your record isn't public anymore, that a person can't search your name and come up with a bunch of stuff about you, whether it's true or not, is beside the point. I only want people to find me in the ways that I want to be found. Like if you put my name in, you'll see good things, my accomplishments, my podcasts, my work. And actually, nothing really came up a lot when people Googled me. There was always great stuff coming up, but you could do a background check. And the law didn't allow for an expungement for years in the state that I lived in until approximately, I want to say 2023.
Okay.
2022, maybe. And there was a big push nationally, actually, to support people to restore, to have rest, to be restored, to be given a second chance. People with significant crimes, people may have followed this very much in the arena of drugs.
Okay.
People who have been incarcerated for years, people were being released, people who had records where they couldn't find jobs, very much in the arena of drugs, not in violent crime for obvious reasons.
Yes.
Or pedophile, you have to be safe.
Yeah.
So, but there was a very high bar for vulnerable or exploitation of a vulnerable adult.
You had to prove yourself, right?
So this is the interesting thing. So I went to this educational clinic, and I was one of the only women in the room and one of the only white women in the room. And I was still really ashamed.
Yeah.
I'm feeling this in my body right now, in my stomach. And then I thought, this is the story of so many men who are African American who have been labeled as bad and who have ended up in lives that they wouldn't choose. And be and I thought, and I'm sitting here and I could share my story. And I got up and I shared my story in like 60 seconds, probably similar to how you introduced me.
Yeah.
And the clinic, it was sponsored by a law clinic. And the lead attorney encouraged me to apply for their firm to take my case as pro bono.
Great.
Which I did. They took my case.
Nice.
So I was eligible because you had to be off paper for 5 years. Well, I was like almost 10 years for me. So what happened was a long process. And the real kicker in this is just really tough, is because you're always being asked to relive the pain. You're always being asked to go back and tell your story. I'm reliving the pain right now.
Are you reliving it differently?
Yes.
Good. That's the important piece.
But
How are you reliving it differently?
Because I know my truth, because I'm authentic, and because I tell the truth. In the expungement process, however, you have to admit all over again in order to have a hearing. Did you know that?
You shared that with me, yeah.
So the cool thing was I had an attorney. And so we prepared what essentially the pleading, the story to present to the judge, and I didn't have to present it. And it was very general.
Okay.
And it eventually happened, this court hearing in September of 2024. It's not that long ago.
No.
And it was a hearing with lots of people who were also asking for expungements.
Okay.
So it kind of felt okay. I found myself comparing myself to everybody's experience. Mine was different than everybody's. There were some drug
Mm-hmm.
violations. There was a young man who was starting a new life who had been accused of he had been labeled a sex offender because he had dated somebody who was younger than the legal age. And he was
Yeah.
a young person at the time. And now he was 30-ish and wanting to marry and wanting a new life. I mean, there were people who were self-represented, pro se, and then there were people who had a gift, which was someone to speak for them on this
Yeah.
occasion.
Yeah.
And because there are occasions to ask for help, right?
There are.
And the judge didn't ask me much at all and didn't have any, like, she didn't really smile or have any facial expression after my attorney presented my
Yeah.
case. She asked, did I have anything to add? I thanked her for the opportunity to be present. And then there's another 3 months that you have to wait. And that's for everybody else, the attorney, the prosecuting attorney on the case, or the Department of Human Services, or the police, sheriff, to come and challenge. And that didn't happen.
Yay. Good.
And then we're at Christmas Eve. I think it was like December 24th. And my attorney said, you're probably not going to get. The part I missed out is the judge signed off on the expungement. Apologies. The 3 months then allows people to contest the judge.
Got it.
And nothing happened, but it was a person that has to seal the record. And
Okay.
the person that seals the record is the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension.
Okay.
And so January 3rd of 2025, the record was sealed.
Yay. Congratulations.
And do you remember me speaking with you
Mm-hmm.
saying, I don't know why I'm feeling flat,
Yeah.
that I should be ecstatic and doing cartwheels and going on vacation and what
Yeah.
did you say to me? Do you remember what you said? I
But
mean,
I was,
literally, but
well, absolutely. It's like, no, that's quite normal. It's quite normal because you have been holding your breath for years. I mean, it just brings tears. Because I remember our conversation and I
and I felt so
remember,
silly.
oh, I know, but I told you, it just, your body is letting go of the grief, of the sadness, because it could finally let go after holding on for so long. Your nervous system needed a whole reset. Because
And
as you were doing all the work, you were doing all the work. You were doing the forgiveness. You were doing, who am I now? And you were accepting yourself and you were going through this. Yet there's always this piece of us.
and we wait for the other shoe to drop a
Yes,
lot.
yes, you do. And I do. We all do. And then, because we have to give it time, that's where the time piece does come in.
Mm-hmm. And
Yes.
I told you that I wanted you to be the first person that I spoke with on air about the depths of the story, which is true. Even
Yeah.
though I did another podcast, it isn't this podcast and it's nothing related. And you're asking me questions that are challenging questions. And I took multiple steps back. And I think this is really important for the audience to hear, is that we do take steps back.
Yeah.
And they could be a lot. And then you accelerate really quickly. So I've had the opportunity, like crazy things where I can go get a job that's a peon job. I know I say peon job, no job's a peon, but this thing about wine.
Yes.
Uh, so I wanted to work in a wine shop. And so I applied for a job and I got the job.
Nice.
And I wouldn't necessarily have got that job. I may have. Um, but there's still background checks.
Mm-hmm.
And
What shows up in the background check now?
now,
Yeah.
in this moment, nothing. Uh,
Beautiful.
there was a little sticking part where I applied for a job and misinformation was given to the
Mhm.
company that uh, was doing the background check, and they released an old background check. So I had to go through a process of figuring out if that was a one-time mistake on their
Right.
part or if it was a mistake in the system. And that was on my 60th birthday. So,
Yeah.
like, great. You know, I think the reset is quicker when you continue to do the work. And I want to share that this doesn't just happen to me. So I went around constantly thinking that I was the only one that could find themselves in this situation.
Yeah.
And I know that there are people out there who have a story and want to release their pain and suffering, because it is suffering. When we hold on to pain and suffering, and I hold it, there's a purpose for a period of time, but not for an eternity. And life will continue to move on with or without me, right? Like, I can't refuse to participate. I can, but I'm not going anywhere. And that actually has been for me something that's been quite profound, is having a choice and being disciplined. And that doesn't mean that I could have an entire week of not feeling, kind of feeling meh.
Yeah.
Good stuff going on, but not happy about anything really. Um, but the cool thing is I get to use my learning journey with my clients,
Yeah.
both as a coach and also when I do work in the court system, because there's coaching underneath it. I mean,
Yeah.
I just love to support people to get to a place where they feel at peace with themselves, because I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
This kind of safe feeling, and I I ask myself a lot of questions and have lots of conversations with myself. But in addition, having trusted people in your life is really powerful, whether they're professionally trained or not, in terms of being by your side, pick up the phone and chat, all the way to getting coaching or therapy.
So you've learned to ask for support,
Yeah.
which is a big part of self-forgiveness. Going through what you've gone through with the expungement, with all of this, is a huge act of love for
Mm,
yourself. Everything, and I think you and I both agree with this, and we follow this philosophy of everything happens, I'm going to
yeah,
say, for a reason. And sometimes it's just, who have I become because of that experience? And you have taken your work to a depth that I have noticed, even just since the time we've been talking, since last year.
really.
Oh
Wow.
yeah. And
Love it.
I can see it and I can feel it. And I think it is also echoed in your work because you love working with people, like you just said, bringing the peace, and you love working in family dynamics. That's hard, right? Because you're dealing with estrangement, divorce, uncoupling, right? And the emotional wounds, the resentment, the judgment. And so that what you've gone through is just helping people transform and becoming their authentic self, really, because I don't think we ever lose our authentic self. I think they're always there. We just got to uncover them,
I,
right?
I think I think this is what came up for me, and I'm writing this word down, is resistance.
Yes.
So my experience in my coaching practice is there's limited resistance to doing the work because individuals have invited themselves, enrolled themselves, asked, can you support me through this process? In the court system, individuals tend to be more resistant.
Mm,
And in humanity or human beings, the more you resist, the more difficult it becomes.
it
So it's
does.
this, how do we try different things to open up? The really cool thing in the coaching world is you could participate in one conversation, one exercise, one action, and it opens the door to this massive aha moment. And you look down, and all you have done is prioritize what's important and what's not.
Right.
And it sounds so ridiculous. Just the process of making a choice to invest on a journey
Yeah.
could be multiple coaching sessions, right? In the court system or family court, if you're not choosing, and I'm not suggesting that my coaching practice is all about people going through divorce and uncoupling, because that's not the case.
No.
However, that these individuals say they were, and they've been unable to work together, are then placing expectations on each other to do things within a certain timeline that someone they've never met is going to decide for them.
Right. Yep.
We have a choice. I'm really curious about, you know, people who go, well, the judge is going to make a decision on that. Well, maybe the decision that you don't want.
Correct. And that's where agency and sovereignty and it really come into play. Learning to have that agency and that confidence so that we can make those decisions for ourselves with the support of a coach, therapist, who whatever we can bring in for our team. And I do want to say that we are coming close to our time. I really want to thank you, Louisa,
Thank you.
for your openness and your vulnerability and your authentic self coming forward. And because when you claim you, it helps give permission for me to claim me and everybody else to claim themselves. And that's what we're here to do, I think.
Yeah.
And that's what you do with your coaching. And with your experience, like I said, it only takes it deeper so that people that relate to your story or anything like it can reach out to you. And that's what I wanted to chat about now, if you don't mind. You have a free gift, a clarity call,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So a clarity discovery call. So this is, I was just sitting here thinking, what did I offer? The so it's really important that we connect with somebody that we feel we can work with. And I just spent however many minutes being very proper and very kind of serious and candid and, telling my story. And I'm actually kind of fun too.
You're very fun and you're very funny.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Well, and I think that's what happens in the discovery calls is you get to be you. And I think that I don't think you held yourself back too much, but I think telling your story today
Yeah.
was really important. And again, I am so honored that you chose me and this platform to
Thank
share it with because we have been talking for a while now about getting up the courage and being able to get to this place where you are today. And I think the only way you could have done this was because of the work that you've done and that you chose you,
Thank you.
right?
And you know
Speak
what? You told me at one point I wasn't ready.
right. I did. Yeah,
Kinda.
I
Uh,
know.
but
But was it correct?
yeah.
Okay.
And the clarity call is, or discovery,
Hmm.
is just to jump on a call with me without a fee
Yeah.
and to unpack what's going on for you.
Yeah.
And it's not, you may have questions for me. You've learned a lot about me. Um, it's to figure out if we might be a match if you want to coach. And there are different ways to coach.
Well, there is, and there's different ways that you help people,
Yeah.
like people who want personal transformation but are feeling stuck. They're overwhelmed by past hurts, who are seeking self forgiveness, right? These are just some things that you help coaching with resentment, but also navigating some family challenges. But really, honestly, I think your whole bottom line, too, along with mine, this is where we relate, is people coming back home to themselves, right?
Oh,
To be able to love ourselves more deeply than we've ever, ever, ever been able to do.
I mean, the rhetorical question is, what other choice do we have?
Very good.
I mean,
Very good.
and I know that for some individuals, it's that the experience is so great that it's, I work with individuals whose pain is a decade old and they're still living that like it was yesterday.
Yes. And that's the beautiful work that
Yeah.
we get to do. Now, you also have a 4-week online course,
Yeah.
and we're going to put that in the show notes, the link
Great.
for that, along with the discovery call. And I think that your offer of that 4-week course, you want to chat about it real quick?
Well, just very, very quickly, the 4-week course is creating a framework from within which to move forward. So you're only gonna un you know un it's the surface, right? I mean, it's 4 weeks of 90 minutes.
Okay.
It's live. It's not pre-recorded. It's not evergreen. So it's with
Right.
me,
Yeah.
and you'll get a coaching call after that with as part of it.
Great.
And it basically is breaking down the areas, the path to take the path, which is knowing oneself. How do you do that?
Right.
Being
Cool.
curious. What is empathy? When we have empathy, we have understood a little more than we knew before. That
Yeah.
has allowed us, right? Broadening our perspective a bit, allowing us to then relinquish grievances, and most importantly, making meaning. Meaning making goes back to, I don't know, the cave days when you see
It
this
does.
beautiful. So I would say it's about $2,000 worth of stuff that I'm offering for $197.
I think that's beautiful.
And I love these courses or classes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you have offered today and for your willingness to share. And and I also really appreciate about you and what you shared today is that you're human. You are still feeling like, like you said, ooh, people might judge me. Yet, you know what? You did it anyway, and that's courage. And so I really want to honor that and bring that forward because more of us need, it would be good for us to take these steps because that's how we heal shame.
Yeah.
That's how we heal shame. And what you did was you just showed us by example of how to do that.
Yeah. And an entirely other podcast in the future is that I totally forgot to talk about is my work with horses and how
Yeah.
it's helped to heal me. I've learned so much. And so
Well, we will have another one. We will
if you
have
go to my
another.
website, you'll get to see pictures of horses and me with horses. Well, you'll get to see my funny side if you go to my Facebook page.
Well, that's cool. Well, we will link all
Yeah.
of those in the show notes because you obviously need to get to know Louisa better.
Yeah.
And again, my friend, I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.